Yes, mate, how's it going? My name's Lee, and welcome back to the FPL Punk YouTube channel, where we try to dominate FPL one game week at a time. So today, we'll be my team selection for game week 13. We'll talk from my current team as it is right now, and try to suggest possible transfers throughout. Heads up, I've already made one transfer so far, so stick around to see who I've transferred in. If you enjoy FPL content, please subscribe to the channel. Anyway, let's rock and roll.
Be strong.
Right, mates, first up, we've got some team information in the bottom right hand corner. My rank has gone up to 700k. My team is worth 103.8 million. I've got 0.1 in the bank, and so far 2 free transfers, but like I said, I have made 1 free transfer that I'll show you at the end of the video. So my goalkeeper and my defence this week, I've opted for Areola in goal. I think Matt Turner might have lost his place, so it's an easy pick to go for Areola away to Burnley. Fairly optimistic of a clean sheet. I know they haven't been keeping a lot of clean sheets so far, but this one I think is almost as far as a banker as you can probably think. Onto the defence itself, we've got Mark Gahey, and same again, want to get up against one of the promoted teams in Luton. Although it's away, and I think it'd be a tough game, I think they're capable of keeping a clean sheet. I really like Gahey as a pick. I got on him quite early at 4.5 mil. I wish I could have gone to someone like an Anderson. He was just out of my price range, but I'm pretty happy with Mark Gahey. Onto Ben White, and he is flagged at the moment. I brought him in last week for Matty Cash, and to me on paper it was just a better transfer. It was a 50-50 decision between Ben White and Saliba. I went for Ben White. He was the fullback. He's been getting forward. He's been doing pretty well on the bonus, and he's been pitching in with the odd goal involvement as well. I think if he plays in that last game, I think he probably gets a goal involvement, to be honest with you. So it's just one of those where just wasn't my luck, really. I'm still happy with my decision. I still think he's a good pick. Semi-hopeful that he's going to play this week. I'm not 100% sure if he will, and I don't think we'll get anything from the press conference. I don't think it's worth making a transfer in defence, especially if Arteta comes out and says he needs another week to recover and to assess and blah, blah, blah. Still pretty happy with him. I have got the likes of Taylor and Kabore in the bench. Kabore is also flagged. I wouldn't mind bringing Taylor in, although I think it's going to be a 2-pointer. They're playing at home against West Ham. That game could easily end 0-0, especially if the likes of Jarrod Bowen is going to be ruled out with injury for that game. So I don't think it's worth making a transfer in defence right now, and if he's flagged, it is what it is. Onto the beast that is Kieran Trippier, and he's just an absolute monster. Ticking away, he's got Chelsea this week, Man United next week, but they're both at home. Newcastle, a really, really good home team. I'm not worried about these fixtures at all. I'm pretty much going to hold Trippier for the long term now, and what I'm hoping for is when they play in the Champions League, they kind of admit defeat, put out a weakened team, rest Trippier, and they can go full strength against Man United as well. I'd be pretty confident of 2 clean sheets in both of those games for Newcastle against either of those. Onto my midfield, and first up we've got Anthony Gordon, very budget enabler for my team. At home to Chelsea, I think it's a nice fixture for him actually, and if he gets given kind of license to kind of do his thing and attack the fullback, I think he might cause him a lot of problems, and we don't know if he's going to play out wide or number 9. I expect Isak to come back in and play number 9. Gordon's been he's been in great form this season. I think that will continue up against Chelsea. I think that'll be a really tight game. I think one goal might decide it, and if Newcastle get it, I think Gordon will be there or thereabouts, so I'm pretty happy with it. Jarrod Bowen, he is also flagged. He did pick up a knock, potential knee injury, but I saw some information come out where they think it was some fluid on the knee, and it's nothing too serious. I heard a clip that above average FPL Baker posted about Kevin Nolan speaking about him, and he said he he looks in good nick, and touch wood, he should be okay. So I'm going to wait right to the last minute to make any decisions on Jarrod Bowen. Away to Burnley, really good fixture for him. I think he's a potential captain pick, but I'll leave a link to my game week preview video, and I'm talking about captaincy there. Like for me, it's between Haaland and Salah, and you can go for Bowen, you can go for Son, you can go for someone like Watkins, Diaby if you really want, but for me the 2 main contenders are Haaland and Salah. Onto Son, and I think this is a good fixture for both attacking teams. So I think it's a good fixture for Son, and it's a good fixture for Watkins as well. So especially if Villa do play that high line, they're really good at catching teams offside. So something they do need to be wary of, but Son is pretty good at timing his runs, and if they can get that passing behind, it just depends who they're going to play and what system they're going to play, and tactically how they're going to set up to try and exploit that. Then I think Son might either do really well or he will do really bad, and I don't think there's really an in-between with Son right now, so we'll kind of see how that one goes. But I can see why people would want to captain Son, but for me, it's just not worth the risk. Especially when you get the likes of Salah and Haaland, who are so heavily owned. They're going to be so heavily captained. It's a bit boring and it's a bit safe, but that's where I'd rather put my money right now. I think if any players are going to hold this week, I think it will be Haaland and Salah, and that's the reason why they're my two top contenders for captaincy. Onto Diaby, and I'm just not convinced by Diaby. Like, Villa just don't seem to be ticking right. I think it's a good fixture for Diaby, and if he can exploit that right wing, if he's up against the left back, it looks like Ben Davies might be playing, and if he is, like, he can potentially exploit that. Or even if Udogie does start, Ben Davies plays left centre back, then there's a real lack of defensive quality on that side, in my opinion. It's maybe something Diaby can exploit, but he's the main player who's on the chopping block for me this week. I see a lot of people thinking about taking Jared Bowen out. If he's only out for a week, I'm willing to take the hit. Play Archer this week, who's at home to Bournemouth, and just suck it up for 1 week. If I'm looking at replacements for Jared Bowen and I really want to make that transfer, the obvious ones are players like Mbeumo, Eze, Palmer. If you want to go all the way down, I still don't mind Anthony Gordon. I still think they've got a nice run of games, especially after Chelsea and Man United. They've got a nice run of about 5 or 6 games. So if you want a cheap enabler, but plug and play, go someone really cheap, go down to Palmer if you really want to go really cheap. I don't mind that at all. But in terms of Diaby, definitely on the chopping block for me, and he's probably the one that I'm going to transfer out. Last but not least, we've got the king of FPL himself, away to Man City. He's got a decent record against Man City, and I'll leave a link to my game week preview again, and I briefly discuss Salah's record against Man City. I think it's something like 12 games, 7 goals, 3 assists. So he's got a very respectable record against City. I think this will be a really entertaining game. I think City will win 3-2. I think it'll be a relatively high scoring game. I could see it maybe like being a 3-3 or even Chelsea for a draw. 4-all, but we'll kind of see how that one goes. I still think he's a good pick. I think he's a perfectly reasonable captaincy pick this week. If you haven't got Haaland, I think Salah is a perfectly good pick. Onto the forwards, and first up we've got Ollie Watkins away to Spurs. Again, it's a nice fixture for the Villa boys. I think it's a good attacking fixture for both teams. Like I said, Spurs have obviously got the injuries and the suspensions that are going to impact a lot of things. The likes of Mickey van der Ven with his recovery pace, I think, will be a huge loss for them. I don't think they'll be able to play as high, so it might mean that Spurs have to play deeper, play more progressive through the lines, and we don't know how they're going to cope with that without the likes of James Maddison and a couple of other players who are suspended or injured. So maybe maybe Watkins can exploit that, but obviously, like, it is away. I still would think Spurs are favourites for that game, and I still think they'll beat them. To be honest with her, I think they've got more firepower than Villa, but that should be a pretty good game as well. I can see Spurs winning that, something like 2-1, 3-1. But we'll see how that one goes. If you want his captain Watkins, like I've said before, I don't hate it as a shout. If you want to go there, feel free. I just can't look past Haaland, and I know he's flagged right now, but I'm 99% sure he's going to play. It's a huge game for City. It's a must-win game for City. They're playing at home, and like we all know, the amount of XG and the amount of shots Haaland gets off at home, I think that will continue. I think he's got a minimum 2 goal involvements in him in this game, and if he does, captain all day long, mate. Like, great pick, absolute monster of a player, and the fact that he's at home just kind of pushes it even more for me. If you don't own Haaland, what's your plan to bring him in? Leave a comment down below and let me know how you're going to cope without Haaland. Right, here it is, mates. This is my confirmed transfer for game week 13. I did it last night, and the reason why I did it, I had 0.1 in the bank. Diaby was 6.7, and Mbeumo was going up. So if I didn't do it last night, I would have been priced out the move, or I would have had to make another move to do that transfer. I was thinking of doing this transfer next week anyway, and I know that Mbeumo is up against Arsenal this week, and it's a difficult game, but then he's got quite a nice one. I know he's got the blank coming up. I can deal with that further on down the line. I think he's going to be quite heavily owned from this point moving forward. They've got a great run of fixtures. I just felt it was the move to do. I'd made a mistake not starting with Mbeumo, bringing him in, transferring him out. I should have just kept him in. I should have just left him there. He's obviously got a few holes recently, and he's just a really good player, and he's on penalties, which kind of pushes it for me. Diaby just hasn't looked quite right over the course of the season, and he's got 1 goal and 2 assists in his last 5, and that's really boosted his goals and assists. Like, before that point, he just wasn't performing that well, and I don't really like what he's doing. He's just so wide all the time, and I'm just not keen. I didn't like having him in the team every single week, and usually when I get to that point, I just think, what's the point? just make the transfer anyway. I've got 2 free transfers. Like, it's not like I'm using my only free transfer, and just going to Mbumo just puts me one step ahead of the crowd. And like I said, it's a move I wanted to do anyway. So why not just get it done now and crack on with it? What do you think about my confirmed transfer this week? Are you thinking of getting to Mbumo this week? Are you going to go Bowen? Or are you just going to wait for some news and kind of see what happens? If you haven't brought Mbumo in, how do you think he's going to do over the next few weeks? Leave a comment down below. Right, mates, that's it for today's video. So today went for my team selection for Game Week 13, discussed a few possible transfers, and then finally revealed my confirmed transfer for Game Week 13. Pretty obvious move. I think everyone's going to be doing it over the next couple of weeks, but it's just something that was kind of bugging me out and something that I wanted to do. I know you get players that have got flags and things like that, but I think it's better to wait for more information on those rather than transfer them out as hastily as something like this. But if you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, and leave a comment down below. Have a good day. Peace and love.